Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredtih with the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org. Consequence of Sound and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thank you so much for checking out the series, making your way here. As always, hit that subscribe button if you like what you hear. We put out 3 of these a week, a brand new one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So it's a great way to keep up with all of your favorite artists like Less Than Jake. And I've got Chris here on the line. How you doing, sir?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me. And that was a very pro intro. It sounds like you've done this a few times.
I've done it a few times, just a few times. Man, it's so cool to meet you on here. You know, I've been an admirer of your work and your music for so long. We got a brand new Less Than Jake record called Silver Linings. It's as great as ever. I mean, Less Than Jake, it's a consistently great band, and I don't know how you all do that after 30 years. And I'm sure there's no great way to answer that question, but how in the hell do you do that after 30 years?
Well, is it consistently mediocre or consistently great? So if it's consistently mediocre, it's a little easier to do. We just do our thing, man. I've always said we keep things as fair as we can and as democratic in terms of, everyone gets their say in the music, and it seems to kind of funnel itself through and become what it becomes. And it just keeps working for us.
Yeah, well, it certainly does that. As testament all throughout Silver Linings. I do want to bring up, though, the way it's talked about, the way you all talked about your music throughout the years is all about this positivity and fun. And to be a band that brings that kind of energy in this era, was that trickier this time around at all?
Well, the record was recorded in 2019. Mm-hmm. So,
I say this era, and I do mean even like maybe the last few years. So, yeah.
I don't know. It's I wish I could answer that question outright. I don't really know how to answer it. Again, we kind of just do our thing. It was just the next batch of songs that we wrote, and we got them done and finished up, and we're just glad that people still are paying attention to us. This record, for whatever reason, careers have ebbs and flows, and for whatever reason, it seems like a bunch of people are paying attention to us again. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, the ebbs and flows, it is really interesting to kind of follow that path too, because at a certain point, it seems to me, my perception in a way, that the album becomes a little less important for a band once you get into your career. And it has, as far as album goes, I know there's been EPs in between here, but it's been 7 years maybe or something like that, if I remember my math.
Yeah.
Is that true for you all? Do you see that the recorded testament becomes a little less important than it might have been, some odd years ago?
Yeah, for us, it's just as important, because I always say this: when we first started the band, before you could call the club up and say, "Hey, can we get a show?" Or before you could print a T-shirt up with your band's name, you had to have what? You had to have a song.
Right.
So it always started with the songs for us. Before we ever even thought of playing the backyard kegger and getting free beer, it was always about the song in our warehouse. So once the song came, then the T-shirts came, and then playing the backyard kegger came, and then maybe playing the punk club downtown or playing the party on campus came. So for us, the song is paramount in making the recordings. But we also know, or I know that, and this isn't a knock against our band, that we're a legacy band at this point. We have those records from the 90s that have those memories instilled for people that thank God we have that. That's an awesome thing, and we never have to record another thing in our life, and we're going to be able, until we can't get on stage anymore with our walkers, we're going to be able to play these songs for people that want to hear them. So it's a great position to be in, and it's ultimately, as an artist, you want people to pay attention, listen to your new stuff, and you're excited to play your new stuff. But at the same time, as a fan, it's like, when I go see Metallica, I want to hear Master of Puppets.
Absolutely. Well, as far as those songs go, obviously we get to kind of follow your lives through them. There is that word that pops up, and I'll bring up the press release again. It's somewhere in there. Maybe it's a review, but the word mature, which eventually hits a band's press release if they stick around long enough. Like, oh, these are lyrics that talk. And I thought that's funny, because I don't recall that ever being associated with you all before, and to finally be called mature after 30 years, like what does that say about this batch of songs?
Well, I hope so. Damn it, I'm pushing 50. Christ. If I'm not mature by now, I don't think I'm ever going to age. Well, I think that sonically, I think the way the songs are crafted, this doesn't sound like a band in their early 20s. It's I think it still has a youthful sound to it. In a sense, if you were a young kid, you would maybe think this is guys in their mid 40s making this music. But I think the lyrical content, it just speaks to where we're at this moment in our life. I can't write about the stuff that I was writing about in my 20s. I can still sing about it. I can go on stage and sing those songs and still feel those songs and get right back in that headspace. But to actually sit down and put pen to paper, if I tried to write a song like that, it would come off as contrived. So we're just writing from where we're at now in our lives. And, I think much like most of our work, we're a good, not all of our fans, but, when we started out, we were 5, 6, 7 to 10 years older than our fans. They were teenagers. And as we've gotten older, we put records out. When we were going through our divorces in our late 20s in the band, we were writing records that people that were 19, 20, 21 years old didn't get until 10 years later, when they were going through divorces. They're like, holy shit, I get that record now, So I think that'll happen with this album too. I think there's an immediacy to it, to what you were saying, that people are hearing that it's mature and they like it a lot. But I think as they approach our age in a few years, they're going to be able to get it even more.
That's funny because you've described my relationship with your band. I mean, I'm 39, pushing 40 here. So it's like, I'm right on exactly what you're talking about, how I've been perceiving your music throughout the years.
Yeah. I mean, that's really it. And that's not me just hypothetically making that up in my head. That this is from fans that have told me this, and numerous fans and it just keeps happening. So we see that. It's pretty cool, It's pretty cool to see that. Not cool that people are going through heartaches or going through this and that, but it's cool that they can relate.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what every songwriter wants, right? I mean, you want to write that. You just, anyway. Yeah. With the lyrics, though, as I understand, though, with Fiorello leaving, which now a few years ago, I mean, that's not exactly new news, but did more of the weights of the lyrics fall on your shoulders than before this time around?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, Vinny was the driving concept behind the lyrics for all those years. I've known him since I was 15 years old. And it was always people would say, how do you sing someone else's lyrics? It's like, it's all I ever knew. It was him and I started this band in a back bedroom of his parents' house. He'd hand me a scrap of paper and go, here, play, sing this, So, having his ideas over the years, it has shaped the band of who we were lyrically. I'm really excited that most people, there have been some naysayers. That's like anything else, because it is different. I can never be anybody else.
Sure.
I can't be you. You can't be me. So all I can do is write from my heart. And I didn't, or none of the guys tried to emulate Vinny's lyrics from the past. Because again, you want to talk about contrived. You can't do it. I can't step inside his brain and give those thoughts. So as much as it's been, it hasn't been tough, because we've all written lyrics over the years. We've all contributed. We all write songs outside of the band, and we've just kind of funneled it within what this new record. But it's been tough in the sense that it's not lost on me that we lost our main lyricist. The guy that gave us these amazing words that people are still holding on to today. So I'll forever be indebted to him for that.
Yeah. But at that point, then, I mean, you have to mine inside yourself further, I expect, than you've ever had to do before. I mean, was that a challenge? Did you find that yourself hitting that moment like, wait, have I already written that idea already? Does that happen?
No, if anything, it happened more when I think Vinny was still around, because we had written so many songs together. Then there'd be ideas that would come like, wait, we've kind of already sung about that. And so now, like, I wouldn't put something to paper that I've sung before, and that's not a knock against him. That's just, we wrote so many songs together. So now, and as far as the ideas and everything, I mean, I have notebooks full of lyrics. All the guys do. We've always had. So for me, a couple of the tracks were lyrics that I had written like 10 years ago, of stuff that I was going through, that I mined some pieces from. Oh, that's a good lyric. That's really cool. So it was interesting. But at the same time, none of us sat back and went, oh no, what are we going to do? We have to write the lyrics now, because again, to your point earlier, like, we're making music for ourselves. If our fans like it, that's all the better.
Right.
But we don't have to play a song past Hello Rockview live. People are going to go crazy. and that's a great, that's really, and I don't mean that disparagingly towards myself or my band. That's a great position to be in.
Well, let's hear about some of those songs then. The Test, I think that's one that stands out pretty quickly on. Self-examination, I guess, becomes sort of part of the theme here, especially naming, the record Silver Linings is.
Yeah, Silver Linings, that came up in December of 2019. Our trombone player, we were, there was like one other title, I don't even remember what it was. We were kind of throwing out titles back and forth, and then Buddy just said, what about Silver Linings? And this rarely, if ever, happens in a band, where all five guys go, that's cool, and you agree at once. There's always one or two, I don't know, it just kind of sounds, So, and it's funny because everyone's kind of been like, was that a precursor to 2020? Did you like, know that this was, no, it was a title that we all liked. The Test, yeah, that was a song that I wrote the lyrics to that one, that I had kind of in a notebook that I went to, and it was basically that one and another track on the record I wrote called Keep on Chasing. They were from the same time period, around 2010. It was just about, both of them were about heartache. And love is actually, the word love is in Keep on Chasing, but it's not from like, I love you, like that standpoint. We've never used the word love in Less Than Jake songs before. That's never been a thing. Yeah. But I felt comfortable using it as a metaphor. Love is like a drug is the lyric in that song. Because I was so, there's 7.2 billion people on the planet, and half of them are women, and half of them are maybe taken. So if you look at it, there's still a billion people I could meet out there, and I was putting all my focus into this one person. And two songs bore out of it, that I was still able to go back and be like, okay, I don't feel that pain anymore, but I know it was real because it's documented. It's right there. And I love the words, so I put them to song.
Yeah, it's I like that you really put the math into the love part of it. I mean, obviously there's been a lot of songs, movies, books, whatever, everything written about, the different angles of that word right there. But I like your entry points in that. That's
yeah, I didn't. Maybe someday I'll be a literal song of, hey, baby, I love you. And if it works, it works. But, for this, it's not that.
The Ramones already did Baby, I Love You. I mean, you can't really top it. It's as literal as it gets right there. And
exactly.
That little hook. King of the Downside, I think, is definitely one of my favorites. I don't have a direct question here. I just kind of wonder if there's anything interesting about that song, because I fell in love with that one probably almost as quick as anything on that record.
That was Roger wrote that song. He sent that down. I remember when I got the demo, it was probably February of 2019. I got up one morning and I put it on, and I immediately thought of Huey Lewis, because he had actually, the horns he had done on keyboard, it was like dun 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 dun. I'm like, this is like the power of love. This is awesome, And so we almost made JR play keyboards on it. No, I'm joking, but yeah, that was one of the earlier ones that was written for the record, and I immediately thought it was cool.
Yeah, it's placed really well on the record, because it sort of gives you this diversion as far as sound and style goes, like right at the right time,
Yeah, it's a little different. It's got a different swing to it, the backbeat of the drums and the way it was constructed. So I think it was. Yeah, I think it's at a good spot in the album.
Yeah. Further on down, you do a tribute to Bill Stevenson? Bill Stevenson?
Yes.
If I got that right?
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that you're going to do a tribute to someone, what has to go into a song like that? Is that something that just came natural, or do you guys have to say, let's do this and this is how we got to do it? Which I know that's a rare way to write a song to begin with.
Well, we back in the day, we always had songs about our friends, about people. Jen Doesn't Like Me Anymore. There was Johnny Quest, Mark Cruz, Jay from Frunzel Rom, Rich Cheese George. We on the Hello Rockview record. So we've always written songs about people, and it had been a while. And so I had this riff for a long time, the main thing to it, and kind of reminded me of Descendants. And I just was thinking, like, who could I write a song about? Like one of my friends. And I was just like, Bill had just come to mind. I was like, and the whole idea behind it was, we always give tributes to, on TV, it'd be like, the the tribute to an actor that passed, Kenny Rogers. We're going to do a tribute. He died. It's like, well, why don't you do a tribute when the damn guy's alive? You know? And the thought behind it was, cool, I'm going to be able to write a song about somebody, which we used to do in the past, which is cool. It's a throwback, but it's not like a throwback where you're, you know, ripping yourself off and it's going to come off that way. But it's kind of harking to the past. And it's also a tribute to someone that's still alive, that's an amazing friend, an amazing musician that we admire and that we love. And that was how it came about.
Now we get to learn about somebody new that I don't know that I'll ever meet, but
Bill's a quirky character. He's an anomaly. He's his own thing, and I mean that with all my heart. He's great.
As far as other people go, Matt Yonkers becomes an official driving force behind the drums now. You know, as we talked about Vinny leaving earlier. Did that change the dynamics at all for you all? I know he wasn't a new face for the band, but did that change once you guys were in the sessions?
Well, you know, Matt has been with us in some capacity for 20 years. We used to tour with his band called the Teen Idols back in the day. And then Matt, you know, just pretty much worked every job over the years he could have worked for us. Finally being our sound guy and day-to-day manager. That was the last thing he had done before he took the drumming position. And Vinny decided to step down in August of 2018, late in the month. And like 2 weeks later, we had a show, 2 shows on the books. It were pretty big shows. It was us and Bad Religion and the Interrupters. It was we did 10,000 people in Tacoma and 6,000 people in Boise, Idaho. And these were shows that we just did not want to lose. And Vinny had pretty much said, you know, I have to draw the line in the sand somewhere. I want to be home with my family. And we were like, okay, well, Matt, dust off your sticks. And he's basically was like, what? I'm like, do you want to do this? And he was like, he just was like in disbelief, you know, because he hadn't played the drums, you know, besides going out in the studio once in a while, farting around, like really played the drums in like 10 years. Ooh. Like really, I never thought he was going to be in a band again. You know, so he's just stepped right in. It was great. And it was seamless because we didn't have to deal with, you know, the new guy's personality. We already knew Matt. So it was kind of the perfect storm. And as far as the second thing you had mentioned about what he brought to the table, again, nobody, I can't be somebody else. Matt can't be somebody else. Vinny can't be somebody else. So when he came in, he brought his own energy and his own creativity to it. He comes from a more of a, certainly a punk rock background, but more of a rock background, just his style and the way he plays. So it opened up some things for us. I think that there's some grooves and some things on this record that everything still sounds like Less Than Jake, but it's kind of pushed the envelope a little bit.
Yeah. All throughout this interview, we've kind of referenced the past and everything, and how can you not when you've been a band for 30 years? I do realize Losing Streak will hit its 25th anniversary this year, released in 1996. I only want to go back there for a second. When I look back on that now, what's really impressive that I see is, you know, as they say, you got your whole life to write your first record, and it really becomes about that follow-up. And it seemed like that follow-up, like that happened so quick though, after the debut is finally released. Did it feel like that at the time?
No, you know, everything when I look back, it's a colossal blur. You know, we were running on caffeine and nicotine and just being, you know, 20 years old. It was just like, go. I mean, and the pedal was at 120 for the first 5 years of this band. I mean, we were on the road, not even kidding, 9-10 months out of the time. We'd come home and it would be like, okay, pet the dog, brush your teeth, do a load of laundry, and the van's pulling back up in 2 days and we're gone again. And so that went on for a long time. The songs were coming. Everything happened so quickly. So no, it didn't feel like it happened so fast at the time. It was just what we were doing. But looking back, it was breakneck. It was insane. I missed chunks of life back then because it was before smartphones and things where you could just check in on like, oh, what's the new, I'm gonna Hulu the Seinfeld episode. Like I missed seasons of Seinfeld. I missed seasons of shows. Like there'd be shows I'd be like, you ever heard of Friends? I'd be like, I think, is that the one with, no, that's the one with Jennifer Aniston. Like, I'm not kidding. We were in a van driving around and it was different, you know, but we didn't care. We were loving it. We were playing shows every night. We were spreading the gospel of Less Than Jake every night.
But Seinfeld's actually been my pandemic watch of all the things, of all the great TV that I think, and my wife's kept me up to date on most of it, but I decided in the summer for the first time I was just going to do front to back Seinfeld. So it's funny that you just brought that up, kind of. Anyway, so now I've seen every Seinfeld episode finally.
Yeah, awesome.
30 years, that is what's coming up though. You will be able to mark 30 years as a band very, very soon. Have those discussions been happening? Do you plan on, I don't know.
Yeah,
because you've been going through them. 20 and 25 is already come and gone. So now here's just the next one. But
yeah, no, the next 3 years are pretty big. This is, as you mentioned, the 25th anniversary of Losing Streak in 2021. In 2022, it'll be our 30-year anniversary. And in 2023, it'll be the 25th anniversary of Hello Rockview. So it's the next 3 years. We have a lot of cool things planned.
Yeah. So it's that's what you guys do though. You're going to be celebrating that stuff along the way.
Oh yeah. We, if we didn't, the fans would let us hear about it. They want those things. They want us to play the live album shows, the full albums, and they love the merchandise and the different stuff associated with it. And it's really cool for us. We can't go too far into detail, but I've kept, you can probably see behind me, I'm in my studio where I have every piece of memorabilia we ever put out. I have scrapbooks in chronological order from the time we started this band. I was meticulous about it. And so I'm going to go back to that time period, flip through the scrapbooks and go Losing Streak. And I have all this really cool stuff that a lot of fans haven't seen that we want to get out there and share for them this year.
That'd be fun. I mentioned, me spending time on Seinfeld over the year. It looks like you've been spending your time on a podcast. You've got a podcast that you've been doing. I love the way you're tackling this. What has this journey been like for you? Because you're really getting into the arts of songwriting with other artists.
Yeah, so it's called Chris Demakes A Podcast. You can find it anywhere you listen to podcasts. It's everywhere. The name, my last name is Demakes, and I used to get crap as a kid. Oh, Chris Demakes a Pizza, Chris Demakes a Pie, and I was trying to think of a name for my podcast. I was like, the Chris Demakes Hour, no. The Chris Demakes Show, no. And my wife just one morning goes, Chris Demakes A Podcast, and I look at her, I go, you're serious? She goes, absolutely. I'm like, oh, you mother effers, I'm going to show you. I called the Chris Demakes A Podcast. I'm at, I think, 33 episodes, approaching the 7th month. I've had some amazing guests. I just had Derek Whibley from Sum 41 on, Mark Hoppus from Blink-182. Bill Stevenson was one of the guests, which that episode is, if you haven't checked that one out, Kyle, you should. It's heavy, the Bill Stevenson episode. But basically, about a year ago, I started doing custom songs and jingles. Mm-hmm. And I actually started in 2019 for fans, for businesses, and they'll come to me if you want a song for your wife's anniversary or you want a song for your restaurant. So I do custom songs, and I started working with a guy who's now my manager. He's the producer of the podcast, Chris Demakes, and Chris plays bass in a band called Punchline from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Known Chris for years. And he was, looking at all the projects I had going on. I was doing video consultations with folks on Zoom, collaborating with songs, and putting my first book together, which I'll talk about in a moment. Had all these different things. And he said, you need to do a podcast. And I said, what? And he's like, yeah. And a lot of people had told me that before, like, you'd be good at a podcast. I'm like, but everybody has a podcast. And Chris is like, yeah, but they're not you. And a lot of people. And he's like, I want to have a theme to this. I don't want it just to be you're BSing with people. And I'm like, well, that's the last thing I want to do too, is interview my peers. I've done enough bad interviews over the years. And he's like, no, it's going to be about songwriting, and it'll be a vehicle for you to promote your custom songs. I'm like, okay. So that's what it is. We take a defining song from an artist's career, where you can discuss, critique, and analyze it during the 45 minutes to an hour. And it has just went through the roof. The fans have just loved it so much. And the greatest reward of it, Kyle, has been the artists probably 9 out of 10 times have said to me when we get off the air, like, man, that was really different. That was cool, because we really got into the nuts and bolts of this one particular track. And I've also, the other greatest compliment has been, heard this numerous times of, you'll hear it during the show, like, what? Like, Mark Hoppus, for instance, from Blink, I was like, yeah, dude, it's 23 seconds and you're into the first chorus of What's My Age Again. He's like, what? Like, he just never thought of it like that, So it's been really cool.
I mean, luckily, being an artist coming from it from that angle. I mean, knowing how, as you said, you've done enough interviews, you know, you know what you want out of it. It's a really great angle that you've touched on there.
Well, and it also gives the person that I'm talking to, it puts them at ease, because I don't care about their third bass player that screwed their wife. I don't care, you know, the politics. Oh, their manager stole $1 million from them after the third record. None of that, even, I don't care. Yeah. I don't want to. I want to talk about the song, and it puts them at ease, and it's been awesome, you know. And I've had people say that to me too, that this was not an interview. This was great, and that's been the hardest part about getting guests. Is I've had resistance because people don't want to jump into an interview. They just don't. But being a songwriter and being able to pick up the guitar and go through the songs, and I put a lot of research and effort into it. When I get in there, I'm able to really surprise the guest a lot of the times, and it's really cool. Yeah,
highly recommend everybody watching, listening to this to check that out. Chris DeMakes A Podcast. You mentioned the thing about writing songs, jingles for companies and folks, and that's really interesting to me too, because there's something about that in another direction that sort of strips away, I don't know what I'm trying to say here, the mystery, the romance, because we have this image in our head of the songwriter in his room, and, you know, the songwriting gods put their hand down and bless you with, you know, the idea that comes in. Keith Richards waking up and writing the Satisfaction riff, you know, or something like that. This is sort of that other direction. Like, you want a country song, you want this or whatever, like, and that's, I guess, there's something about that, right? The songwriting, that it's not so different than we make it out to be when it comes to what is genre, what is style.
Yeah, you know, that's definitely with the podcast that I had a question this week. I do a segment called The Filth every week. I do a fan segment, and they'll ask questions. One of the questions was, I had an artist named K-Flay on, and she's just very different from punk and ska in the world I come from. And they're like, you know, is it hard for you to break down and analyze a song like that that's outside of your wheelhouse? It's like, no, a song's a song, you know. I can sit down with it, and I can break it apart, and just like any song, doesn't matter if it's rap, country, a jazz song, I'm able to get in there and analyze it. And you know, as far as, I think the other thing you were kind of saying was about the mystery and this and that is, you know, there's never really been a mystery with our band. We've hung out after shows. We go to the merchandise booth. We shake hands. We're accessible. My email address is all over the place. It's out there. You know, chrisdemakes@gmail.com. If you'd like to say hello, if you'd like a song, I'll write you back. I write every single person back that follows me on social media. So there was never ever a thing to be like, well, I'm the artist. I can't share my songs with somebody outside of the band. And the fact of the matter is it's been beyond rewarding. If you could see the reactions, you can actually go to my YouTube page and see the reactions of people will film their husbands or wives getting these songs, and like grown men go into tears, you know, like it's really neat.
Yeah. You mentioned the book. I didn't know about the book. Tell what can we know about that?
Yeah, so if you go to chrisdemakesAbook.com, and that's DEMAKES, chrisdemakesAbook.com, that'll redirect you to the Smart Punk Records site. They're a wonderful label that I put the book out with, and it's called Blast from the Past. The book basically is my years in the band up until now. I've always wanted to write a book. My favorite reads are rock autobiographies and biographies, and I had put pen to paper a number of times over the years, and I'd get like 2 paragraphs or 2 chapters in, and it kind of all read the same. Hi, I'm Chris, I'm from Michigan, and I'm like, do I want to do this? And long story short, December 5th of 2018, I woke up that morning, and I had moved earlier that year. I was going through some pictures in my studio, organizing, and I had a picture, and I just thought it was great, and I uploaded it to Instagram, and I said, I'm going to post one of these for every day for 365 days until I surpass Roger in Instagram followers. It was just kind of a joke, and JR, our sax player, was like, you won't make it 2 weeks, and I said, I'll show you. And I was writing these stories with the picture, and probably about 3 weeks in, it was like late December 2018, it dawned on me. I said, I'm writing my book, one story and one picture at a time. So December 4th of 2019, that was 1 year. I had 365 pictures and stories that I put into this book, and it came out awesome. And the fans are really, really liking it.
Well, I know what my next book's going to be right there. Thank you for the, I didn't know that going into this. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love what you do, Chris, and especially, let's say this again. There's a new Less Than Jake record. It's called Silver Linings, amongst all the other things that they have out right now. It is so much fun, and I so appreciate everything you all have done for 30 damn years. Congratulations.
Yeah. Well, thank you, and congratulations to what you do, man. You're a pro, and I appreciate you taking the time to want to hang out.
I appreciate that.